Hello listeners and welcome back to another episode of the preview show brought to you by the No Nay Never podcast. I'm your host Natalie Bromley and we're looking forward to Sunday's clash away at Norwich for a really tricky fixture as the Clarets aim to get back to good ways again following a disappointing 0-0 bow draw at home to Derby on Tuesday night. I am joined by the ever enigmatic Statman Dave, our resident statistician. We're going to have some input from regular panellist Rich Steele about that Derby reaction and looking ahead to what we can expect on the road at Carrow Road this weekend. So listeners, get ready, let's go. No Nay Never podcast. Dave, the main geezer himself. How are you, sir?
I'm very well, thank you. Yes.
Yes, the best view in football, as ever. Self-proclaimed best view in football.
I'm regretting that.
No, please don't change it because I kind of want this to be your tagline. And listen, Dave, we've worked together long enough now. It wouldn't be a preview show if I didn't just be able to completely and utterly take the mickey out of you in a loving way. You know this. It's never in a bad way. It's always in a loving way. But please don't deny me. Listen, you can take your background. I'm still going to call you the best view in football. How's your week been, Mr. Roberts? How was Tuesday night?
Well, yeah, it wasn't the best game, was it? Let's be honest. I know we've got a piece coming up from Rich. I think the Friday night's game was a really good game. I think particularly the first half. They kind of shut up shop towards the end of the game. They were playing for a draw, but they came out, certainly the first 45 minutes, first maybe 70 minutes. It was a good end-to-end game. There was lots of chances and there were sort of high hopes for Tuesday. And that was kind of killed off. We didn't, apart from maybe one or two chances in the first half, we didn't really look like breaking them down. We looked like we could have played another 90 minutes and not scored. So it was a bit disappointing after
90
Friday.
Dave.
Well, yeah, maybe. Just have two home games and only get 2 points. That was a big disappointment, really.
Yeah, I think you're right there. And I think perhaps we'd been happier with a point against Borough than Derby. But as we talked about in the analysis show with Tom and Robbie, or was it Tom and Rich? Tom and Rich. No, Rich and Robbie, sorry, at the midweek. Gosh, they're all blending into one. We've just had too many disappointing returns from bottom of the table opposition that we should be beating. And, you know, I really thought we'd turned a corner against Stoke and Borough. And just Tuesday was utterly terrible. Let's pause there then and let's bring Rich in, regular panellist Rich Steele, because he couldn't make the show tonight, but he sent us his dulcet tones from our Wigan residents, our resident Wiganer. He gave his thoughts against a disappointing that. So let's hand over to Rich for a minute.
Hi Clarets fans, Richard Steele here from the No Nay Never podcast. Just a few thoughts on the disappointing withdrawal with Derby. Obviously, for those of you who listened to the pod on that we did previewing the game after the Middlesbrough performance, I think we were fairly upbeat and feel we was going in the right direction. And ultimately, it was just a disappointing performance, wasn't it? It kind of felt like we went back to those performances before the international break. I felt like when I seen the team sheet and it looked a little bit too defensive, in my opinion. I think moving forward, even though I think they're all good players, I think it's too much of a defensive midfield to have Brownhill, Laurent and Cullen. There's not enough kind of variety within that midfield three. And Sarmiento obviously then got pushed out wide, but he ended up playing quite still central really. And I thought he had a really good game actually, Sarmiento, but it ended up that we had no real width on the left, and Perez almost ended up playing like left mid and left back on his own. Anthony had a quiet game. I think what I can judge off Anthony so far is one of them who'll be okay and steady, and he'll have the odd really good game here and there like he did against Bristol, but that's kind of his level. And Fleming's coming into the team, and obviously the reports are from Millwall that he's a number 10 and he's not had that opportunity to play there yet really, and he's been pretty ineffective, hasn't he, playing as a lone striker. And like I said on the podcast the other night, I think we're really short of a real quality number 9. Jay's doing a good job for us, but he's not what we really need moving forward if we're going to be really contending for those automatic promotion places. And like I said, it was a lot of ball, but we didn't do anything with it. Had limited shots. And second, it seems like the pattern of playing against these teams at home is that the longer the game goes on, the more we really struggle to break them down. And like I said, second half, they had the better chances. If anything, they should have won the game really with that one from Yates where Trafford saved it well and then he missed an open goal really. It's in the side netting, and yeah, just a really frustrating evening. We had a bit of a bright moment when Koleosho come on and he ran through and maybe should have done a little bit better. So obviously there's a lot of frustration. You kind of see Turf Moor, there's a lot of more empty seats and the football isn't great to watch, but I don't want to say there was an overreaction on Twitter because people's completely right to voice the frustration at that performance. But me personally, I don't want to get too down about it yet because there's been, we're on the back of a lot of good run of results. And I think Connor Roberts did an interview with Radio Lancashire which stated that, it is a new team. It could have been easily this season with all the sales that we could have been in a far worse position where I'm kind of thinking that it's going to be hard for us to get automatic promotion. You never know, but I just think Leeds and Sheffield look better, look a better team than us. And yeah, it just doesn't really surprise me, that type of performance. I know there's a lot of angry people, but I wasn't angry because it was just like, well, I kind of expected this a little bit. I won't say I expected it, but it doesn't come as a surprise is a better way of putting it. But it's 100% a game we should have won. Derby were really poor, and we just didn't nowhere near did enough to break them down. At Middlesbrough when we went 1-0 down, and the shackles were off, and we had to go and get that equalising goal. It was almost like. We played our best football of the season, played with really good intensity, and that's what we need to do every game. Start off the game fast, put Derby under pressure, play with high intensity. And like I said, it seems as the game goes on, we seem to slow down, which is frustrating. And it's probably meant that the game against Norwich on Sunday is a must win to kind of stay in that automatic promotion hunt. And it won't be an easy game because overall, Norwich have really got a good record at Carrow Road. So to kind of summarise it, I'm not happy with the performance on Tuesday, but I'm also just a little bit nonplussed by it. But at the same time, I'm not getting too low about it because we have turned a little bit of a corner recently, and hopefully we can put more of the performances in like we did against Stoke and Middlesbrough. So yeah, fingers crossed for 3 points on Saturday.
Yeah, echoing a lot of our thoughts there, Dave. I mean, we've talked about this a lot on the podcast. I don't think you and I have particularly talked about it, so it'd be interesting to get your view on this because you tend to be the most pragmatic one of the team. We can get a little bit more emotional than you do. You manage to keep your head when we're all losing ours and we all get a little bit fed up. You manage to be a calming influence on us. It's difficult to criticise our position in the league. If we'd have managed to beat Borough on Friday night and found that winner, we'd have gone top of the league. And, we're within touching distance of Leeds and Sheffield United. And, we're still in, it's looking more like playoffs than automatic, but we are still in the mix ahead of the January transfer window. But it's coming at a significant cost, and that is literally any form of entertainment whatsoever. Where do you sit on the old entertainment? Are you bothered about Parker Ball being as dull as it is, or are you just happy for us to churn out the results? I don't think we've talked about this yet.
I think results are key, as we know. I mean, we've certainly compared with last season, we're unbeaten at home still. We have to remember that, but we have had 5 draws as well as 5 wins. We have dropped a lot of points against teams who perhaps on paper we should have been doing better against. And we've not scored enough goals. We've not had enough threat up front. We're missing Lyle Foster, I think. We've looked better, I think, when Jay's started. I mean, not that he's perhaps as much of a goal threat, but certainly in terms of his press, we've looked better, and that's helped the rest of the team, I think, to some extent. but we are missing a goal threat. I mean, we'll come on to the Norwich game going forward. They've got a top striker, scored 15 goals already this season. We're not looking like scoring that combined from our strikers.
No. We don't have somebody who's going to score double figures at the moment, I don't think.
Well, yeah, I mean, Josh Brownhill might with a few more penalties. That's kind of where we're at the moment. But, you tend to think you're going to need to have a 15, 20 goal striker at least to get you up there. If not, you're going to need probably 3 or 4 to get into double figures. We don't look like either of those. The one plus point, obviously, is that we have been tied to the back. We have only let in 7 goals, which is, unprecedented almost. You have to go back to, I think, Chelsea in 2004-05 in the Premier League. They went through the whole season, only conceded 15 goals.
Wow.
We're ahead of where they are. I think they'd conceded 8 at this point in the season during that campaign. Obviously, it was fewer games they played. But we need to have more of an attacking threat. Need to have more of a goal threat, and we just don't seem to have
any attacking threat, not more of a one. Anyone. It's interesting you talk there about the lack of goals and conceded and an incredible defensive record, but that's because of that's a byproduct of the safe football that Parker is
to some extent.
Playing. Yeah, it's like he's too scared to commit anybody forward, and if you're going to park 11 men behind the bus and just make sure that you're playing, particularly at home to Derby. I think Rich said this on the podcast. They were on the group thread. Sorry, it's like he was playing to protect the clean sheet. Like the clean sheet was the most important thing. It's like we're not going to get automatic promotion by getting 0-0 draws all season. It's like that's not how it's going to be. And it feels like it's more than a lack of a striker to me. It feels like it's a really bad combination of a manager who's too frightened to let the handbrake off and to go for it, and a squad desperately lacking in attacking quality because the board sold everybody. And I understand the reasons why. We've had some explanation as to how much of that was player driven and how much of it was financial driven. I understand the business needs for it, and I understand the challenges in keeping players who don't want to play anymore. But I'm sorry, I refuse to believe that some of it couldn't have been avoided. I think we jumped to that. I don't think we fought to keep the players that we should have maybe kept. I don't know. Maybe that's naive from my point. But and then on top of that, you have players who are playing in a system that's just not suiting them. Classic example, Dave Fleming. Like he was flown in on a helicopter on deadline day and was supposed to be the saviour of the football season. What was the point of that fanfare if Parker's just going to play him as a standalone number 9, which isn't his position, with nobody feeling? Both of our wingers, Koleosho's on the wrong wing predominantly. Anthony's okay, but lacks the final ball. And then you're playing Fleming as a number 9. It's like he's not a number 9. It's like, what's the point? I don't know how. Like, why are people in the club not seeing this, Dave?
Yeah, it was certainly the Fleming situation slightly baffling. I think I don't know how many times he touched the ball in that first half, but he certainly wasn't involved in the game, was he? Yeah, we need some sort of spark up front to try and get us moving, get goals earlier in games, and we don't look like having that threat. We look like we can still win games, but it is a slog, isn't it?
Yeah, it's definitely a slog. And I think, talking about managers' decisions as well, Derby County at home did not need a midfield full of Joshes. Too many Joshes were in that midfield. It was like, it was crazy. You could have afforded to be lighter in midfield. You could have even afforded to change it at the back and have more of a threat. They looked okay. They're definitely not the worst side I've seen at Turf this season. But they didn't threaten us. Trafford wasn't particularly tested that much, I didn't think. So, yeah, I mean, it's frustrating, and it looks to me at the moment like we're going to be in the lottery of the playoffs, which is a terrifying ordeal. And I don't particularly understand what we're doing right now. So I'm going to try and reserve judgment, Dave, because we do have the January transfer window coming up, and we don't know to what extent we're going to invest. Maybe this has just been a case of everybody just calm down until we had to panic buy in the summer. So maybe let's see what happens in January. Maybe he is going to take the handbrake off and disappear and set us going in January. Who knows? Okay, turning ahead. It's Norwich this weekend. The start of 3 very tough fixtures for the Clarets. One of the other reasons why we really needed to win on Tuesday night. But hey ho, let's not carry on beating that drum. We're away at Carrow Road. What do you have in terms of stat for us to kick us off in a preview of this day?
Okay, as usual, do have some stats for us to kick off. Starting off with the fact that all but one of Burnley's previous 23 visits to play at Norwich City were to Carrow Road, but our first ever away game at Norwich in 1934 took place at a ground known as The Nest. That was their home ground from 1908 to 1935, and Burnley actually won that first away match at The Nest 3-2. 3 of our 23 games at Norwich have been in cup competitions, with the other 20 in the league. Of 21 seasons together, including the current campaign, just 8 were prior to the turn of the millennium. But our paths have crossed more regularly since then, with 13 seasons together out of the last 25.
Ooh, those are good stats. Well, obviously, there's been quite a lot of games between Norwich and Burnley over the years, in quite a few of the flights, I think. And we normally ask you at this stage, as part of our preview leading up to the game, to pick a particular match that you like the sound of, and you wanted us to reminisce. So do you want to take us down a trip down memory lane, Dave? What have you picked for our match this week?
For our No Name Never Remembers feature, we've chosen a Burnley away win. It was from the 2000-2001 season. After a memorable automatic promotion, we finished second in 1999-2000. Stan Turnett's team were defying the odds and still striving for a potential playoff place in the latter stage of the campaign in mid-April of 2001. This match took place on Easter Monday. That was the 16th of April. But it was Alex Notman who gave the home side the lead after 13 minutes. His first goal for the club, I believe, before a rare goal from Kevin Ball levelled the scores after 24 minutes. He tried a speculative low shot from 30 yards, which Canaries keeper Rob Green should have done better with. But City were back ahead before half-time with a penalty from Ewan Roberts. Despite trailing at half-time, a trademark headed goal from one of your favourite players, Natalie, Gareth Taylor. 3 minutes after the break. That was followed by another from £1 million man Ian Moore just after the hour mark. And the Clarets held on for a valuable victory. Despite this win at Carrow Road, our playoff hopes eventually were dashed with a 2-0 defeat to Sheffield United at Bramall Lane. But we'd done remarkably well in our first season back in the second tier since the mid-1990s.
Oh, that is a good one. Listeners, do you remember that game? Were you at that game? Do drop us a line if you were. We do love to hear that. That was some team, that. It's my childhood team. I remember that team so well. Feels like a lifetime ago now. Just like not modern football anymore. That was all around the ITV digital days, wasn't it? Was that around that same period, Dave?
Just before. I think it was the following season.
Yeah, it must have been. Excellent. Okay, give us some more stats then, Dave. Let's carry on with the build up to the game. What else have you picked for us, Nuggets wise?
Some notable players who've played league football for both clubs include Mike Phelan, Kevin Reeves, Wayne Biggins, Alan Taylor, Adi Akinbayi, Jason Shackle, and Robbie Brady. Of Burnley's current squad, Nathan Redmond and Aaron Ramsey are ex-Canaries, although neither of these players is expected to be involved this weekend. However, one player who could well be involved, and we've got mixed feelings perhaps about this, is ex-Claret Ashley Barnes, who could be involved for Norwich City this weekend.
Oh my God! I'd legit forgot that Ashley had gone to Norwich. He's not been playing for them though, has he? Is he injured?
He's played the last 3 or 4 games. I think he might have been coming off the bench, but he's played the last three or four matches late November into December.
We can't lose to an Ashley. That would be absolutely heartbreaking. And also, I just don't know if I could ever be angry. Even if he scored a hat-trick against us, I couldn't be angry at him. I just couldn't. Oh, I'd forgotten about that. Sorry, Dave. Final one then. Some goal scorers. What have you picked for us for your final stat?
Finally from me is a goal-scoring stat. The top goal scorer in 47 previous matches between Burnley and Norwich City, home and away, is the late, great Peter Noble, with 7. However, only one of his goals was scored at Carrow Road. The other 6 came at Turf Moor. Ted McDougall leads the way for Norwich City in this fixture with 5.
Good stuff. At this stage in proceedings, Dave, I'm going to mess around with your script slightly because I'm conscious that I've chucked a load of stats at you back to back in this show. So I'm going to give you a little break and I'm going to bring Georgie Boy in at this point, who is going to give us the lowdown on this week's referee. George, over to you.
Well, you can see he's clearly not George. He's otherwise detained, so I'm off the bench to do the referee details for you today. This weekend, the referee will be Madley the Elder. That's Andy Madley of Ossett near Wakefield in West Yorkshire. We've already seen his younger brother Bobby in the middle twice so far in 24-25, but it's the first time for Andy since last season. That was a rare Premier League victory, and an emphatic one at that, a 4-1 away win at Sheffield United. In fact, we have 6 victories from Andy Madley's 10 previous matches in charge, as well as 3 draws and just 1 defeat. To date, he hasn't shown any red cards, and Burnley have got off light in terms of cautions, with just 10 compared to 17 for our opponents. So let's hope that our run of form in front of Andy Madley continues on Sunday afternoon. Until next time, up the Clarets.
Excellent stuff, up the Clarets indeed. Now, Dave, do you want to finish off then, please, with the quick results overview ahead of that Derby game? No, Norwich game.
Although Burnley have had just 6 away victories at Norwich City, 4 of them have been since the year 2000. We've won 2 of the last 3. Our overall away record there currently stands at played 23, won 6, drawn 3, and lost 14. We scored 27 goals and conceded 43.
Good stats. Well, for those of you who do love a bit of stats, Dave does maintain an outstanding database of Claret stats. Those of you who are watching this via our YouTube channel, details are on the screen. Oh gosh, sorry listeners, 1 second. I do apologise. I interrupt this regular broadcast to choke down the microphone at you. Yes, where was I? Regular listeners, those of you watching our YouTube channel will see a graphic on the screen, including a QR code where you can get Dave's excellent database. And Dave, why don't you let our listeners who are listening to this on the podcast, let us know how they can access your content, please.
Yes, I've made a short link to try and make it easier for people to access it. And the short link is bit.ly/ and then it's all in uppercase, Burnley Stats QL. And as we know, regular listeners, QL stands for quick links.
Look at that. This is what you get with a stat man. Specificity. Everything gets an explanation. Thank you, Dave. Do take a moment to check that out. Dave puts a phenomenal amount of work into maintaining his data. And I don't know any other database that comes anywhere close to what Dave maintains. So if you do want to hear more, go on there and check it out. So let's round off then our preview before we have a couple of bits of chats about other wider football news this week, Dave. How are you feeling about Sunday's game? Do we have any chance whatsoever as a general starter for 10?
We have a chance, yeah. We're on an unbeaten run still. We've obviously drawn the last 2, but we've got 4 wins and 2 draws in the last 6. We know we're not scoring goals, so it's not going to be a goal fest, I don't think, on Sunday. But yeah, we're more than capable of going there and getting a result. We've had some good away results already this season. But you feel that if we do win, it's probably going to be a 1-0. It's not going to be something where we're going to be going away and scoring 2 or 3. So let's hope we can keep it tight and get a goal and sneak a 1-0 away win. That'd be a fantastic result on Sunday.
Do we have any? I don't think I've seen it yet. We've not got any injury news. I don't think the press has been out yet, has it? With it being a Sunday kickoff, have we got any of our injured players?
They had the pre-match press conference with Scott Parker earlier today. Said that Lyle Foster's been back training again. He's unlikely to be involved on Sunday. It doesn't sound like there's a great deal of change I think he made a decision on Tuesday with regard to Bashir Humphreys playing instead of John Egan. That was more of a precaution, I think. So it looks like he'll be available again. But I'd be tempted not to change that. Seemed to work reasonably well on.
It was all right, to be fair. Yeah. I mean, Derby's forward line is not going to be anywhere near as impressive as Norwich's, so I don't know to what extent they will get tested more. But, we know that central midfield to an extent and the defence are not a particular problem in this team. It's going forward. To that extent, who do you pick going forward? What do you do here? You're tempted to go for it and try and go for it. Like, why not try Jay and Fleming? Why not? I mean, it's difficult, isn't it? Because Sarmiento's clearly a very good number 10 and he's doing very well in that role. But Fleming's supposed to be better. So do we give them a chance to start the game? How do you feel about that away from home?
I think he's probably more likely to stick with what he did on. I mean, what he had on Tuesday maybe works better for away games than it does for home games. And then you've got the option to change that up later on. I think the bigger disappointment perhaps is we're going in with that mindset in home games when perhaps we should be going for a little bit more earlier on. I think if we'd gone for Derby a little bit more earlier on, or even made the change at half time, I think we carried on, didn't we, and didn't make the changes until after the hour mark. Might give us a little bit longer to try something different. It wouldn't surprise me if we go with the one up front. It may be a fact of Jay coming back in to lead the line on Sunday. That wouldn't surprise me. I think we've done better. We've looked like we've got a better shape and a better impetus when he's in the side, when he started recent games. So that'll be my thinking, I think, for Sunday. Not that anyone listens to me.
I listen to you, Dave. I've always listened to you. I don't listen to you. The only time I don't listen to you is when you try and tell me that it's not a must-win game, when it clearly is a must-win game. But I think in all of our time together, I think that's probably the only time I don't listen to you. Also, when you tell me not to do Christmas editions of the podcast with too many sherries, also don't listen to that either. But other than that, I listen to you. Give me a call. Give me a score prediction then. Don't say draw.
Well, I'd like to think we can get a win, but I think a draw's probably slightly more likely. 1-1.
Yeah, it will score. Okay.
Yeah.
What's my score prediction? Do you know what? I'm going to predict a draw as well, because I went through a ridiculous phase earlier in the season in our preview shows of predicting 4-0 and 5-0 wins, and we got like 0-0s or 1-0. So if I try that reverse psychology again and say it's going to be 1-1, I'm going to say 2-2. 2-2. I'm going to say 2-2. No, because we're not going to concede 2 goals.
We're not going to score 2 goals. Oh, well, let's
more chance of scoring 2 than conceding 2, I think. I think that's probably fair. No, I'm going to go back full circle. I'm going to say 1-0 to Burnley. And I'm going to say it's Steve header. There you go. Listeners, you know the drill by now. We want to have your score predictions. Please, if you are watching this via our YouTube show, please drop a comment in the comment section below. And while you're at it, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, please, so you do not miss another episode of the No Nay Never podcast. Those of you listening via our podcast subscription, please just drop us a line on social media. You can find us looking for the handle No Nay Never across all platforms and let us know what your score prediction will be. While you're there, also click that subscribe button via your favourite podcast provider. Dave, let's finish off then this week's preview show with a couple of talking points further afield. What's been going on in the world of football outside of Burnley this week?
Well, it's a while since we've had a general football topic to discuss, but there was a piece of news this week. We heard FIFA's decisions on the host countries for the 2030 and 2034 World Cups. If you've been not paying attention to those, they'll be played jointly in Portugal, Spain and Morocco in 2030, and then in Saudi Arabia in 2034, most probably in January, although that's not been 100% confirmed yet. I think it's Ramadan in December, so that was kind of out because of the weather. It's not going to be in the summer, so January is looking more likely. FIFA are no strangers to controversy, as we know, where World Cup hosts are concerned. You only have to look back at Russia in 2018 and Qatar in 2021. But should we be welcoming the latest announcements? particularly in relation to the likely conditions for playing football, especially the heat, as well as in the case of 2034, human rights concerns.
Yeah, I mean, my views of this are the same as they were with the Qatar World Cup. I'm not a fan of sports washing things like this. I think we should be braver and stand up for human rights. I just, I know we're going to have the same concerns that we had with Qatar. What are the conditions that the workers are going to have to work in with regards to building materials? Are they going to address and start adopting a more universal set of human rights across the world? It's possibly a higher discussion than what we can have on a local podcast. But I do share the same concerns as everybody else with Saudi Arabia. I share the concerns for the LGBTQ plus community who want to go out there and support it. I share concern over conditions for workers. I'm concerned with to what extent women will be given access to watch games if they want to bring this experience to wider people. How does rights for different genders apply? It's a long way off, so we don't know what the world will look like in 2034. Maybe things have changed by then, but I wasn't surprised at the news, to be honest. I think we were all expecting it. I think from a football perspective, I think they will put on a very good show. I think they will invest money, and I think they've promised to give us a different and a more dynamic way of watching football, which I'm genuinely excited about because I think they can deliver that. I'm actually a fan of a Winter World Cup. I thought the Qatar one was a huge success. I thought we got, I think we welcomed the winter break from our league. And actually watching those players, we got more players who weren't injured because they're playing at the end of the summer. We saw fresher players who were not playing at the end of a long season. Everybody was in the peak of their season, so they were at peak technical ability and peak physical strength. I thought from a footballing perspective, that brought a better World Cup. So it's not all disappointment. I think that those nations the nations who need to provide us with a Winter World Cup and who have the finances to put on a really great spectacle, but that cannot be allowed to come at a human cost. So a discussion to be continued, Dave, I think is probably fair to say. Do you agree?
Yes, I agree. I think perhaps our listeners will get in touch and let us know their thoughts as well.
Yeah. Well, this is a conversation that's going to rumble on. So, bear in mind that this is brand new news. And I always try and bring a balanced debate here. I don't particularly want to come online and say things that when I've not fully educated myself as to the concerns and the risks and things. So that is an exercise that we will do, and we will have this conversation many a times going up there. But yeah, as a gut reaction, that's where I sit with that. What else has been going on, Dave? Anything else?
Well, yeah, if you maybe noticed that there was a fan forum this week with Chairman Alan Pace. That was at Burnley College. There were obviously fans present there asking questions, and shortly afterwards it was made available to stream on YouTube. So if you're able to, go on to the club's YouTube channel and have a watch of that and see what you think.
Yeah, I haven't seen it yet. Obviously, I was aware of it was going on with my position on the fan advisory board, so I knew it was happening. I was supposed to be there to offer some support, but unfortunately, as you can hear, I have the flu, and I wasn't able to make it in person. Hence why I wasn't at the Derby game either. I was sat watching it on my TV with my cat. Got myself out of bed for that 90 minutes. I could have very much stayed where I was. Have you watched it yet, Dave? And if so, what was your immediate reaction?
Yeah, I did see it. It was one of the things I did notice. There were quite a lot of empty seats. I don't know whether there was quite a lot of questions that host Scott Reed had that he read out for people who'd submitted questions but then weren't there. So I don't know whether there was an issue with that. Look, it wasn't easy to tell from the camera work whether how many people were actually there. But yeah, it was an hour and a half. They were, I think, the questions will definitely have been screened. So there's a kind of a little bit of a PR exercise from that point of view. Or there's certainly the criticism that it's more of a PR exercise. But then later on, there were 2 or 3 questions that came which were not pre-vetted, which were coming through, which were perhaps a little bit more edgier towards the chairman, which I thought he handled those reasonably well. I thought he came across pretty well. It was my my view of it.
Yeah, he does speak well when he comes to all of our fan advisory boards meetings, and he does speak very well. And one thing that I always say is that is authentic. You know, yes, I agree that the question, it was more of a not PR exercise. I don't know if that's fair. But the club's well within its rights to cherry pick that. You know, what club in the world is going to let its chairman just be thrown out and just be completely exposed to these things? But there is a thing with Alan Pace in that you could literally walk into him on the street and ask him the most controversial or the most prickly question or the hardest question that you can, and he will be able to and can answer it. He will answer it, and he will be able to answer it, because he doesn't need he lives and breathes that club, and he doesn't need his press room to give him the answer. He will be able to tell you. It might be not what you want to hear right now. It might not be a complete answer, but he'll be able to give you an answer. So it doesn't surprise me that the ad hoc questions at the end, he was prepared to take, and he answered them well. I do say this in the fan advisory board meeting, so I don't think this will come as a huge surprise. And I say this with love. I do wish he would stop saying that Burnley will play in the Champions League at some point. I'm just like, Alan, it's like it.
That did come up, yeah.
Yeah, it just worries me. I'm like, the Premier League's a closed shop, my friend, and I'm not sure. Like, I love the optimism, I love the ambition. Don't get me wrong, but I always think the top 6 are a top 6 for a reason, and clubs like Burnley don't get in the Champions League, never mind win it. I think I would rather him say, like, I promise you, we will get to the position where we are we can stay comfortably in the Premier League for a decade. We will win an FA Cup or a League Cup, and we will be financially viable. Those to me are more targeted and realistic ambitions for a club of us. It's like, I always want to say, like, when he says, like, we will win the Champions League, I'm a bit like, oh, Alan, don't promise me that, because it's not going to happen. And that's okay. Like, it's okay. We don't have to be winning the Champions League. That's not what we need as fans. We just need financial security. We'd love to have another decade stretch again in the Premier League. And we'd also love to, like, score a few goals every now and again. That would be nice. So yeah, that's my own, like, that. But I say that in the comfort of there. So he knows that I say that with love. But yeah, it's interesting to see. I will catch up with it when I'm feeling a little bit better. Listeners, we will probably talk about it maybe next week, Dave, maybe the week after. Yeah. We'll have a chat about it when we've all had a chance to digest properly. So again, more homework for you. Please do check that out if you haven't already, and drop us a few comments as to what you thought of it. Excellent. Dave, anything else from you, sir? Would you like to wrap us up if not?
No, I think that's everything I had for this week.
Excellent. Same with us. Listeners, it's been a pleasure as always. This has been the preview show. We will be back probably Monday or Tuesday with reaction to that Norwich game. We've no midweek game next week, have we? I don't think. So we'll be back next Friday night, Dave, for the next preview show. That sounds doable.
Yeah, we play Watford, don't we, on the 21st?
Yes. So let's do that. We'll probably have a Watford fan for that one. We've been struggling to get away fans recently. So those of you listening, if you've got some good contacts who want to come on podcast and do a preview show as an opposition view, send them our way. It's been quite challenging to get people at the moment. They're all camera shy. Come and join us. So yeah, keep an eye out on social media. We will let you know when our episodes come out. In the meantime, thanks as ever to the main man himself, Statman Dave, for all of his hard work on the stats, and for everybody who has contributed to making this episode possible. Do turn on subscriptions and do turn on notifications to never miss an episode. I've been Natalie Bromley. This has been the preview show brought to you by the No Nay Never podcast. Until next time. The No Nay Never podcast is brought to you in association with the talkSPORT Fan Network. Our host and editor is Natalie Bromley, and the show is produced by Matt Moss.
Our resident statistician is Dave Roberts, and our FPL expert is Adam Dennett. The Analysis Show team is collectively Tom Whittaker, Rich Steele, George Poole, Charlotte Rigby and Adam Dennett. Our music is provided by George Gaskell, and our newsletter team is headed up by Jamie Smith. If you don't already, you can subscribe to our newsletter by visiting nonanever.substack.com. Thanks as ever go to our partners talkSPORT. We are proud to be associated with the talkSPORT Fan Network.